Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Break It Down, a D-Generation X podcast, episode 3, where discretion is advised, but completely fucking ignored. And we can say fucking because we are not on the USA Network. We're on YouTube, and you can say whatever you want on YouTube. Isn't that right, Cam?
Whatever the fuck you feel.
Yeah. My name is Nick Perkins. I am your host of Break It Down, joined as always by Cam Hawkins. Cam, my friend, how are you? It's almost WrestleMania.
Yeah, man. I'm busy. I'm apprehensive. I'm got a million things going on. Yeah.
It's gonna seem tired.
Yeah, it's just it's a lot of prep, man. It's a lot of prep. This is probably the first time since I've been with the Ringer. I basically have like 3 assignments in a month, maybe 4. So it's a lot. It's a lot going on right now. But there's an end game to it all. Hopefully things slow down a bit in May. But yeah. Absolutely.
Is this your first WrestleMania season where you're like actively working in it?
So this is probably the 4th.
Okay.
WrestleMania last year in Dallas, I was doing the Wale Mania thing, but I also did the Conrad at a panel with, it was him, Jeff Jarrett, Jeff Hardy, who else was there? Eric Bischoff, a couple other guys. And so I worked that and then did the media for something. I don't know. I didn't even go to like WrestleMania proper, right?
Sure.
But I did go to, I hate to name drop. Me and Daniel Garcia went to the Impact show together. And so we kind of, scoped that out, did some stuff there. And then I've done like WrestleMania. Last time they were in New Orleans, we were working Access, did some interviews with fans there. And I feel like there's one other where I was like working. But yeah, so this is like the 4th one. This is absolutely the most in-depth. Like this is, WWE like inviting me to stuff to cover. So the others were official, like we did media stuff, but this is like not the brand. This is Cam doing it. So that's the biggest difference.
Sure. Yeah. And you're about to start getting all the messages saying you're on WWE's payroll. So good luck with that.
Yes. Oh God. Yes. I can listen. When that happens, you'll know. I'll show you. I'll show you. I'll show you my pay stub after
Say that loud and proud.
And I'll buy everybody mink coats, but that is not the case.
I would like a mink stole. Lucille
okay.
Style,
all right.
so
that's a bet.
You're taking requests. You have had a busy couple weeks. You've had a busy week this week. You talked with the five time. I'm not going to do the whole thing. You talked with Booker T.
Yeah.
How was that conversation?
It was really cool. It was really cool. I've been, a fan of Booker's for, almost 30 years. What was really cool about it, so with WWE, they say, hey, we have media availability for this person at this time. And you have to remember that you're not the only person they're talking to. Like you can be, sometimes you're the first, sometimes you're the 8th,
Sure.
Sometimes you're in the middle. So I get to him, or he gets to me rather. And, he can tell, he's probably talked to a couple people just like, hey, yeah, okay. The first thing I do, I said, hey, and so this wasn't in the article. I said, hey, when I was in college, I went to college with a kid named Joe Price. Joe Price was friends with your son, Brandon. And he tells me about one time he was at your house and another kid came over and didn't know who you were. And they said the kid saw you and just stared at you and choked up and you kicked him out the house for staring. And he just starts laughing because you could tell like he remembers it right away, right? And then 2 of his students, Hyon and Stephen Wolf, both wrestle. They're a married couple. We hung out with them in Houston for their anniversary.
Okay.
And, we're out, we're having a good time, watching football, having a couple of drinks. And Hyon is like, hey, I don't know if it's still the case, but at one time, Booker's Wi-Fi password was fuck Buff Bagwell. And so I tell him that, and he dies laughing. He's like, nah, man, Buff's my friend. That's my man. It was so funny. So immediately, like the conversation was different. It wasn't, I'm talking to media guy who doesn't know, anything. It's okay. He knows people around me. He knows people I coach. And so I made sure to weave in like the Fly Defs and the Brian Keese and all the people he covers. Cause I'm a Texas guy. He's a Texas coach. So they come around here. They got a show out here on Sunday. So no, it was great because I didn't approach it just from media guy, not just from fan guy, but from somebody familiar with you and like your life. And so it went great, man. It went great. I could tell that really that loosened him up. And so, you got the final product. It came out great.
Yeah, that's got to be refreshing to you imagine how much media these guys do, and like to talk to somebody that is actually speaking to you like a human being. That's got to be refreshing.
It was really cool, man. He was again somebody I've loved since I was a kid, who's been doing it and genuinely gives back. And the biggest difference, him being local, like I get to see not just his students wrestle, I see how they are at shows. Like they're respectful, they're attentive. Like it's great to see what he does like in motion. And so we could talk about that. And he knows it's somebody coming from, like I said, a genuine place. It was great. It really was.
Did he at any point in your conversation say shucky ducky quack quack?
He did not. There's no shucky ducky quack quack. Every now and again there would be like something you could consider cliche, and that's from repetition, right? But no shucky ducky quack quack. Nothing crazy. Nothing. No quotes to write home about specifically.
Well,
but yeah.
Speaking of quotes to write home about, how's that for a segue? Yesterday, we got a little quote from Dave Meltzer saying some stuff about CM Punk, and CM Punk responded, and he did not respond in kind. Did you see CM Punk's message on his Instagram page?
I caught the IG before the IG was gone, and of course, like it's screenshot everywhere. Yeah.
What do we think? What do you make of this situation?
I feel like it's a work dispute, and people at work don't get along.
Sure.
People at work have different ideas about how they want things to go. It's they say CM Punk burns every bridge and leaves places worse and is never in a good place with management when he leaves. And like, of course, some of that's on him, but it doesn't mean that his concerns aren't real. It doesn't mean that how he feels isn't real.
Yeah.
I just think that with the AEW situation, I think he thought he would have more control. Like I really do. I think he thought he'd have more control. I think that probably how it was presented to him coming in, he was the guy. He was the guy. And to me, the issue is they bring him in as the guy with guys who don't think he's the guy. You know what I mean? Like it's not no disrespect to Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks. I think that they have a certain opinion of themselves, a very high opinion of themselves because of things they've done, because of things they've accomplished. And it's hard to tell guys like that, no, this is the guy now. Like, I think that they were all about, making the Acclaim look good and Top Flight look good and the Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy look good, Jurassic Express. I think they're all about that. I think that's great for them. I think that FTR, who I love, and the CM Punks of the world come from a different ideology, different philosophy. And I just think that they don't mesh, but it's also not a situation where the person on top has enough history and enough cachet to say, no, this is the way it's going to be done. Vince McMahon has that, and nobody else has that. So it's not a knock on Tony Khan, but nobody else has that. So you kind of go along to get along. I don't think CM Punk is like this monster. I don't think he's this locker room cancer, anything like that. I just think it's a situation where the Chris Jerichos of the world have the ear of the boss, and especially the ear of enough of the locker room to where they can present the things that they want as being good for everyone. And it's worked out,
Yeah, that makes complete sense. So do you think, tough question, do you think we'll see CM Punk back in AEW?
Yeah, I really do. I think if they want to get some money, the money's there. And, Wrestling is lying, man. Wrestling is lying. Out the corner of my eye, I'm looking at Rey Mysterio, kiss Angie and the kids, and
Right.
Dominic calling them a deadbeat when I know they're all going home in the same car. You know what I mean?
Right.
So wrestling is lying, man. Like I think there was a better chance. I still think there's a good chance. There was a better chance of CM Punk coming back before, a lot of information got leaked last night, like in spaces. I don't know how much of that you caught. I woke up at 3 in the morning and there was a space with 160 people in it talking about CM Punk.
Oh, wow.
And it was because CM Punk had spoke to somebody who was like, in one of the speakers in the space. And so like a lot of information came out and I was just like, this is not how I would have presented it. This is not how I would have put the information out there in the world. I think it was a better chance. But I still think they work it out, man. Like it's not, nobody killed nobody. Nobody slept with each other's wives, man. It's just, some work beef.
Yeah.
That everybody can get more money if he's there. Everybody gets more money if he's there. I don't think Kenny Omega feels or should feel threatened by CM Punk being there because he's Kenny Omega. The stuff with Moxley, I really like Jon Moxley. I think the world of him.
Absolutely.
As not only a wrestler but also as a person. I think it takes a very brave person to tell you the things wrong in their life and to put them out there in the world and want to fix those. I really do. Sometimes Jon Moxley, in his opponent's minds, be presenting some bullshit, and like, I want to see all the crazy shit Jon Moxley wants to do. Not everybody does, so I don't think Jon Moxley's threatened. I think he's very secure in his position. CM Punk saw some shit he didn't like and didn't rock with it and didn't feel healthy enough to go with it in the moment. Like, it's just some work beef. I would never choose sides in anything like this because, one, I ain't got no stake in the game. I want this thing. If one of them working there means that the company goes under, then I would say something. It doesn't mean that. So it's whatever.
Yeah, you're right. It's work beef. I think it's so public and it's so just out there for the world to see that we think it's this big major thing, but it's like Steve from financing ate your lunch the other day, right?
Or he made tuna in the work microwave and didn't clean it out. Like, it sucks, but like, you don't need to go to HR about that. Just work it out. Yeah, absolutely.
Hopefully that's what happens. CM Punk does kind of strike me as an old school type of guy. So hopefully everybody just says, hey, that was dumb. Let's go make some money.
Let's get this money, man. Yeah, for real.
Well, speaking of money, Cam, tonight we are talking about WrestleMania 14, which is one of the most important WrestleManias, I think, in the history of the company. It was the coronation of Stone Cold Steve Austin. It was the last match of Shawn Michaels for 4 years. It was a lot of stuff happening.
Yeah, they put, The Rock is in position as kind of the nation breaks down. Triple H solidifies himself over Owen Hart. You got the Outlaws and the Cactus Jack Chainsaw Chart. Like, there's a lot on this show. Sable, LOD. Like, there's a lot going on this show. I love the presentation. Like, I love that circular entrance. So many eyes on
big, but it felt still kind of intimate, which
exactly. Like that run up from like Survivor Series with Brett and Austin. Like, again, having like that intimate feel, but no, not Survivor Series. I'm sorry, WrestleMania 13 with them, like having that like kind of slender entrance way, but it still feels so important. Yeah, absolutely, man. Like, this is I don't know if it was WWF magazine. I think it was like a third party, like a PWI or something. But these are the pictures I remember the most from any WrestleMania. Like, Shamrock attacking Rock after the match to reverse the decision. That sticks out to me. Owen and Triple H. This is probably, and again, 13's important, but 13's kind of a one-match show in the grand scheme of importance. You know what I mean? But no, 14, for someone who, like us, grew up in the Attitude Era, this is where you see them start to solidify the people who would be like the guys the next 10, 15 years.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. I didn't watch it live, but this was the first WrestleMania that I ever saw. And I remember it was a Friday night. My best friend Eric was spending the night. We went to Blockbuster back when that was a thing. We ordered a pizza. We rented WrestleMania 14 and Friday the 13th, Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan.
Yeah, man.
And we had it sticks out. This podcast is all about nostalgia. It's why we're doing it. It's my favorite feeling in the world. And this is the most nostalgic WrestleMania for me. I remember renting the video. I remember acting out the matches while they were happening. I had Eric in the ankle lock, and this is one of my favorite WrestleManias. So I'm excited to talk about it with you.
Absolutely.
All right. So before WrestleMania, there was No Way Out. And if you remember from our last podcast, No Way Out had a main event of Stone Cold Steve Austin, Owen Hart, Cactus Jack, and Chainsaw Charlie taking on D-Generation X and Savio Vega.
Bless his heart.
I'm still not over it, but we'll move on. The most memorable part of that match, of course, was after the match when China kept needling Steve Austin, kept bugging him, kept pushing him, kept flipping him off. He finally took all he could take, and he couldn't take anymore. He stunned her.
Yeah.
He gave her the Stone Cold Stunner, and that was the first time that anybody had ever put their hands back on China. She'd been beating up the boys for the last year, but this is the first time that she finally got her come up. And so the first piece of footage that we see from DX on the February 16th, 1998 edition of Raw is a video package of China. It was the first thing we saw of DX, and it just showed how much of a badass China was.
Dominating people over the last year. Yeah. Absolutely.
It was amazing. What a run. But then, before we get into that, we'll talk about China probably a lot throughout the run of this podcast. I think she was as integral to that group as anybody.
Absolutely.
Did you watch her biography that WWE and A&E did?
So I did not. It was kind of a situation where, I worked with WWE and A&E to write about Jake, right? So the China doc was it 3 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago?
I think it was 2.
I was somewhere doing something on that Sunday because I think it was if it was 2 weeks ago, I was somewhere. But it's kind of a situation where I did not want to watch it because I do feel like we talked about work, right? We talked about work, and sometimes it's just work and it's a work beef. Relationships at work. I have seen them. I've seen good ones. I've seen bad ones. I've seen husbands and wives show up at the job to confront spouses. I've seen some stuff at the workplace because of workplace romances. And so I was like, I love China. China's great. I got the matches. I see how much love they have for her online. China, knowingly or unknowingly, is like this amazing beacon and inspiration for the LGBTQ community. A lot of queer wrestlers wrestle because of China. Wow. I've noticed that. And so I was like, you know what? From what I know about the story, I'm good with that information. I don't need this story retold to me. So no, didn't peep it.
Yeah, I didn't watch it either. Just I didn't make a big deal out of it. I didn't get on Twitter and say screw you. But we were there. We were there when it happened. We saw it. We don't need revisionists to tell us how great China was.
Yeah, and I think the important thing about it, we saw it, but so if that's WrestleMania 14, China's gone by
17.
17?
Right after 17.
Gone by 17? Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
So we're talking, I think WrestleMania 1 was in 84, right? So if she's gone by 17, I'm 15, 16 years old, which means what, you're 13, 14?
Yeah.
So we don't get it at that point. But, we are, especially when I get into junior, senior year of high school, then the college, you coming up behind that, You start to understand relationships more. You start to understand, being together and breaking up and jealousy and friends you can have and friends you can't have. And so, like, things started clicking. Like, it wasn't a murder mystery. You know what I mean? Things started clicking as time went on. And yeah, I really do not. They say history is written by the winners. I don't think there are winners and losers here, but I don't need to hear the history of a relationship if everybody's not around to talk about the history of the relationship. So, yeah, no good guys, no bad guys. Just I don't need it. I'm good.
Yeah. That makes complete sense. But when this happened, boy, did they make China look good. But then at the end of this video package, where they just showed how much of this badass Amazonian, like Wonder Woman brute that China was, they said that she wants to sue Stone Cold Steve Austin for emotional distress, which is funny. It is funny. It's such a like chicken shit thing to do. It's something that like MJF or like Stokely Hathaway would do, and we'd laugh about it. But do you think that it was kind of like counterproductive to what they had just tried to build her into? Or do you think that's maybe like the punchline?
Even more so, like, I mean, that's what happens to bullies for real, though. You know what I mean? Like, it made me think of every, TGIF show or, sitcom or Saved by the Bell. Like, when the bullies actually confronted, you find out they got real life problems, and that's why they've been acting out. And it's also DX being DX. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't think it made her out to be less. It just made them out to be who they were. But nah, man, like we talked about last episode, they showed that shot of China chasing Stone Cold and being in the shower when they showed China's back. Nah, she's tough. She's tough. They just wanted to get under Stone Cold's skin.
Yeah. And they did. So later on in the show, Austin comes out and he gives an interview and he says, like, China got in my way. And so I took care of her. And if Mike Tyson gets in my way, because this is right after Tyson and Austin had that big pull apart brawl that we talked about in our last episode. He said, if Tyson gets in my way, I'm going to knock his ass out too.
Yeah.
So my question is, like, obviously the plan probably like Survivor Series of 97, right after Shawn beat Brett. The plan was probably Shawn Michaels versus Stone Cold Steve Austin at WrestleMania, right? I think we talked about this a little bit in the last podcast. Do you think that did you think there was more money to be made with Austin versus Tyson instead of Tyson just kind of being the ringside enforcer?
I think, was there more money to be made? Yes. I think that if you make it Mike Tyson versus your top guy, there's going to be so much intrigue in the immediacy. Yes. However, if the goal is Stone Cold's going to carry us going forward, he has to have the title. Like, sure. It was the happy medium and probably higher than medium, right? We can have Mike involved. Don't call him a referee outright. Like, employ the physicality, highlight the physicality of being an enforcer. And then, of course, like, when they're figuring this, you think you're getting peak of his power Shawn Michaels, not a limited Shawn Michaels. You know what I mean? So, right. Yeah, I think, we know how much Vince loves Shawn. Austin was coming in hot, and you had access to Tyson. I think it's the best you could have done. I really do.
Yeah, I agree. So the next week comes, and DX appeared live via the proverbial satellite, which we always love that. Rock did that a lot. Because Shawn Michaels is still kind of dealing with this back injury. So he's trying to travel as little as possible so that he can be on his A game for WrestleMania. So they take us to Shawn Michaels' house, which may or may not have actually been his house. And Michaels said that so that Austin attacked China from behind, which is funny because they were literally face to face.
Yes.
But Michaels said that he could sue Austin, but they're not going to mess with legalities because they police their own. Michael said that he and Triple H and China want to take care of Stone Cold Steve Austin himself. So they're going to throw away the lawsuit. They're not going to mess with it. Triple H said that, you know what, things are about to get nuts. If the powers that be want ratings, which they do, then we are going to give them ratings. If you said that if all hell breaking loose is what gives you ratings, then we're going to burn the Nielsen book, which is super cool because now looking back, like when I was an 11-year-old kid, I didn't really understand ratings or like I didn't know what he was talking about, right? But now we know that ratings were the key in this Monday Night War with WWF and WCW. So it's kind of cool to see them talk outright about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is at a point where they're in a fight. They are fighting for ratings. Like they want you like to understand like which direction that's going. Absolutely. So Triple H. I really like Triple H. I did not like Triple H. I don't like DX Triple H. I thought that it's better with Shawn, but especially when we get to like post Shawn, it's just so many dick jokes and it just sounds so forced all the time. Like
it was a lot cooler when we were 12 or 13 years old. Right?
Yeah. It's just 12. Yeah.
I get it. And we'll talk more about that, especially post WrestleMania. I think that's a fascinating conversation to have. Like was DX as creative and as edgy as we remember them? I don't know. That's part of why we're doing this podcast, really, is we love talking about it, but we watch everything that was going down. So it's fun to revisit this stuff and kind of see it with the mind of a 35-year-old or it. So the big takeaway from that whole segment, besides the fact that Shawn is not a very good pool player, is he guaranteed that the main event of WrestleMania 14 would, in fact, be Shawn Michaels versus Stone Cold Steve Austin. And he probably had to do that because a lot of people were doubting whether Shawn Michaels would actually face Austin at WrestleMania, given his injury, of course, and also his history with kind of losing his smile or getting a knee injury or getting a back injury. So when you were watching this, you were young, so you didn't know all the backstage goings on. But did you think that there was a chance that Shawn Michaels might not be in the main event of WrestleMania 14?
Couldn't imagine it. I couldn't imagine it. Even back then.
They can put Savio Vega in the match?
Bless Savio's heart. What they did to him after WrestleMania is terrible. No, because like of course, like you said, you're not thinking like that at the time, right? It's the biggest match of his life. Like he's headlined the Royal Rumble against Psycho Sid in San Antonio. So like on a personal level, that probably means a lot. But no, I don't know payouts. There's no way there's a match he made more money with than this match. It's impossible. Oh, yeah. If for no other reason than you look at the marketing he had to do going into it. Like, no. This is it. Like, even if like it's and they're different people with different motivations, but it's Hogan and Goldberg in Atlanta. You know what I mean? Like, I'll lose the title in Atlanta on a random Monday Nitro against Goldberg, who I've never interacted with, because I know there's going to be eyes on there, and this is going to make me more money down the road. Absolutely, yeah.
That makes complete sense. You're absolutely right. So next week, it's March 2nd, right? And DX opened the show, and Triple H, it seems like they were trying to get this new catchphrase over, because Triple H said this like every week for like the next 3 weeks. He said, Degeneration X, where discretion is advised, but completely ignored. And I don't know if they were trying to like put that on a t-shirt or what. It was clever, I guess, but it wasn't as succinct as Suck It.
From No Way Out until Is It Unforgiven? We'll just keep track of all the things Triple H tries to get over. It doesn't work. And again, it's not a knock to him, but it was just so forced. Like, he's like, we got to have a catchphrase. Even when they start to try to figure out when they're going to say 2 words for you suck it, it's a work in progress. And like, see, this part isn't like a knock. Like me liking it or not liking it, watching them try to figure it out in real time was interesting. Like to see what worked. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's discretion is it. Yeah, whatever, Triple H. Yeah, but he was trying to make it work. Yeah.
So Triple H, after trying to get his catchphrase over, said that this WrestleMania was going to be X-rated. This is like the second time he said that. 11-year-old Nick didn't know what that meant other than, oh my God, am I going to get to see boobies at WrestleMania?
I'd say, yeah.
Yeah, that's what X-rated mean. We did not see boobies at WrestleMania. That would come later via Sable, but we'll get into that another day. So Triple H told Owen Hart. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, you got it.
Triple H told Owen Hart that he was going to cut through him like a hot knife through butter. And then, because it's Triple H in 1998, he compared his genitalia to the aforementioned knife for some reason. But then things got good. This is the March 2nd Raw is War episode is one of my favorite Raw episodes of all time. I remember it like the back of my hand. Shawn Michaels called out Mike Tyson. He told Tyson that when his crew and him get to the arena, DX is going to make them an offer that he can't and won't refuse. So, later on in the show, sorry, I'm just checking my notes. Later on in the show, Mike Tyson is doing an interview with Vince McMahon, and he's like, Tyson's time is precious time. Like he's getting a lot of money for like 3 or 4 visits in the build up to WrestleMania. So you got to really make his appearances count, and they do. So Vince McMahon is talking to Mike Tyson, and then DX comes out. It's Shawn Michaels, it's Triple H, it's Chyna one more time. And Shawn Michaels says, Tyson, I'm not going to be like Austin. I'm going to call you out to your face, boy. He tells Mike Tyson, you know what? I'm calling your ass out. You get your people out of the ring. I'll get my people out of the ring, and we're going to have a fight. This is not just about you and Stone Cold Steve Austin. You're in my world, son, and we're going to fight. So Tyson agrees. He tells his people to get out of the ring. Vince, probably mortified, gets out of the ring. Triple H, Chyna, they leave, and now it's a standoff. It's Shawn Michaels. It's Mike Tyson. It's the Heartbreak Kid versus the baddest man on the planet. It's Iron Mike versus the Iron Man of WWF. And you think, I don't know if you did, but I thought for sure they were going to have a knockdown, drag-out fight. Tyson, being the better man, told Shawn Michaels, you know what? You get one shot right here. Shawn Michaels decided to take it. So he grabs Tyson by the shirt, rears back, rips his shirt off. Mike Tyson is wearing a D-Generation X shirt.
Yeah.
Mike Tyson is in DX, Cam.
Yeah. A great reaction by everybody, too. Absolutely.
Oh,
yeah.
It got the man. It was so cool. I watched it again this week. I was just as hyped to this time as I was last time. They got us again.
It's like, I'm watching, I'm like, is the shirt going to rip? Like, I know it's going to rip. I've seen it rip 1,000 times. How are they going to make this happen? It came off perfect. Tyson reacted perfect. Triple H jumps and hugs it. Like, it's great. It's perfect. It really is.
Yeah, it was in the list of like things that Shawn Michaels and Triple H and Chyna did from 97 to 98. I remember the presidential address. I remember the barbecue for The Undertaker. And I remember this with Mike Tyson. And boy, oh boy. Obviously, the story will change a little bit later on. But at the time, Mike Tyson as a member of DX, it was incredible. Before all that, though, Stone Cold Steve Austin came out to confront Shawn Michaels. And he was talking his smack. But then Kane's music hit. And that, to me, was like... Obviously, Kane had his story with The Undertaker, and he was attacking everybody. But this was the first time that Stone Cold Steve Austin and Kane's paths crossed. And Kane, like, this really is an example of the irresistible force versus the immovable object. Mm-hmm. And obviously, like, come June of this year, we'll have a little bit more interaction. But Paul Bearer told Steve Austin that he doesn't have to worry about WrestleMania. You're going to be dealing with Kane tonight. Do you remember this? And what were your thoughts when you saw Kane call out Austin? This,
like, it's some of my favorite because they redid it with Bryan Danielson, with Daniel Bryan. But it's some of my favorite babyface against supernatural force, because Steve Austin was like, he's talking to Jim Ross, and he's like, I don't care if the lights are on, lights off, I'll beat his ass in the dark. And I was like, oh, this is great. But no, it was great because, again, Kane is either embroiled with the Undertaker or somebody lower on the card who he dominates, and the Undertaker can't even get, like, physically can't dominate him. So for him to step away from that to get into it with Stone Cold, who's been beating everybody, what's going to happen here? What's he going to do different? And what's Stone Cold going to do different? Hit him in the mouth. But yeah, I loved it. I love the confidence. And again, like years later with Daniel Bryan, Kane got in his face. He's like, I'm not afraid of you. I'll kick you in the face. Like, I don't care. I love it. I love that. Like, some people can exist outside of the space, but it's based on merit. Like, I do appreciate that.
Yeah, it was the coolest thing. And, you know, later on, Kane and Stone Cold and The Undertaker have a whole feud, and it's the whole story throughout the summer. But this was the first time Kane called out somebody that was kind of higher on the card than him.
Mm-hmm.
It was unbelievable. And you were right. It's like these two worlds like meshing, because you do have like Austin, who's just this guy that likes to fight, and you've got Kane, who sets people on fire. It was incredible. So Paul Bearer says, at the end of the show, Steve Austin, we're going to call you out. So at the end of the show, Kane and Paul Bearer come out to the ring, and they wait for Stone Cold Steve Austin. You hear Austin's music because he's not going to back down. He doesn't care if Kane murders people. He's going to fight him.
Mm-hmm.
Before he even gets to the ring, he's standing on the stage, and he sees Triple H distract him. Goes to see what Triple H is doing, turns around, sweet chin music right to the face. Shawn Michaels, they got him, Cam.
Caught him clean.
Clean.
It's beautiful. I don't know if you saw, but whenever, and this is a bit of vanity, and everybody does it. I'm just the first one to say that I do it.
I respect
whenever
that.
I write about somebody, I'll wait like 6-7 hours, and then I'll Google their name and go to news. And so it'll show you what sites picked up on your story and if they pulled from it, right? So again, I was not the first or last person that Booker talked to on this media run. So somebody apparently asked him about thigh slapping during kicks. Right. And he said, if somebody who slaps their thigh on a kick should be fired immediately, right? Like, they got that soundbite out of Booker. Yeah. But it just made me think like how that kick was so clean and the selling was so good, and they sold it for another week. And like, it didn't matter if nobody's thighs got slapped. You believed he kicked his head off. It was great.
Yeah. Sweet chin music is still like, I do agree with whoever says that like the super kick is kind of overused.
Absolutely.
Shawn Michaels was doing it. That was lights out, man.
Yeah, it was, and again, it did not, even though it ended the show, it did not end. Like, they kept that rolling. Like, that was one of the standout clips from all the video packages and from the build. Absolutely.
Yeah. So Shawn Michaels, the show does end. The cameras go off with Shawn Michaels standing over Steve Austin, telling him to suck it. And then they smugly left to the back. Fast forward next week. Shawn Michaels took the week off. He's still kind of dealing with his back injuries. They're trying to make his time as precious as possible. So
like so last week when they did his when they were at like his house, that's like a house, right? Yeah. It's like, okay, like as a kid, you're like, I wonder where this is in San Antonio. Like, I wonder, like, you're looking for like landmarks and context clues. The next week he's like at Dairy Queen or something. All the tables are like, the tables were like air hockey tables. Is so weird. I'm like, where are you? Like, why are you just hanging out here? Yeah, it was strange.
Maybe he just has like an air hockey arcade in his house. I don't know.
He just has a Roy Rogers restaurant just at the crib. Just what are we doing? Okay.
But he's live via satellite again, and he tells Austin that he got exactly what was coming to him. Shawn Michaels said that Austin was a fad, but that he would always be in the World Wrestling Federation, which is kind of funny in hindsight.
knowing how it was gonna go for sure. Yeah.
Michaels told Austin once again that he doesn't lay down for anybody, and he's not going to start with Steve Austin, which is, we've heard that before, and in front of the camera and behind the camera, you kind of believe it. Like, Shawn Michaels doesn't lay down a whole lot, but so this video was fine. Like, it was a basic video, and it did fine, but I don't know if you could tell, but I could tell by like looking at Shawn Michaels, like, homie looked rough. Like, he was tired. He was like, I don't know if it was pain. I don't know if it was the addiction stuff he was going through, but he was rough.
Absolutely. It's I mean, well, and we'll get to it. He pulled through Mania. Absolutely, like, solid there. It wasn't, up to snuff with what he'd been doing. But yeah, you can, like, Triple H is carrying a lot of what DX is and eventually becomes, of course, but he's carrying a lot during that time. He's telling the story, he's emoting, he's doing a whole lot on commentary, he's doing stuff with Owen and China is. But yeah. Shawn was definitely hey man, he was on borrowed time. He absolutely was.
Yeah. They everybody did the best they could though. So speaking of Triple H, Triple H ended the show taking on Owen Hart. Wait, that might not be true. Wait a minute. There's so many dates, Cam.
I'm saying, like, it all kind of runs together. I'm trying to think of what the end of that show was.
Oh no, I got it. I remember. So this is why I didn't remember. In the main event, Triple H took on a member of Los Boricuas that wasn't Savio Vega.
Yeah.
I don't know what his name is. That's on me. No disrespect.
That's the only other name I remember in the group. Like, yeah. Angel? I don't know. Okay.
We'll call him Angel.
Yeah.
So Triple H is fighting Angel, and Austin, knowing that Triple H is the only one there, he goes out. He told Triple H, "I'm going to whoop your ass," and he came out and started to do just that. People tried to get in the way. Like, there were referees out there. Gerald Briscoe was out. Sergeant Slaughter was out, trying to keep Austin away from Triple H and China. And what did they get for their trouble, Cam?
Stone Cold Stunners.
You get a stunner, and you get a stunner, and everybody gets stunners.
You lighten them up. Word to Oprah. Yeah, man. It was, yeah.
This might have been the first Stone Cold Stunner on Gerald Briscoe, who would end up taking a lot of them over the next year.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, he was running through him, man. Like that's that era of, like, the DX build. So many brawls, but there was a reason for them. Like, you're under my skin. I got to get a piece of you. I need an advantage going to the pay-per-view. I need a piece of you. There was so much of that. And it worked. Absolutely.
And you believed it because like, probably, maybe pro wrestling's not real, but Austin's style, like, he wasn't doing like somersaults or moonsaults. He was just punching people in the face.
Absolutely. He
made it look real. But before he could punch Triple H in the face, Shawn Michaels came out and hit him with the sweet
got him again
music. One more time, they got him again. They got us again.
Yeah.
And that is how that show ended. So once again, second week in a row, Shawn Michaels laid out Steve Austin. He's kind of making him his bitch a little bit.
Yeah, they did a good job of making the heel, like, look strong, like, leading up into this. It was, we have the numbers, we have the misdirection. Now we have Tyson. Like, they really did stack the deck. Absolutely.
Yeah. And speaking of that, so the next week, March 17th, we're a couple weeks away from WrestleMania. Raw aired an incredible hype video for Steve Austin versus Shawn Michaels. Like, we all know about the Mania 17 Rockin' Austin My Way, right? That was great. We know about the Daniel Bryan monster WrestleMania 30 promo, right? I think this promo that they did with Shawn Michaels and Steve Austin is one of the best things that they've made. It showed the stakes of the match, but it also told the story of Shawn Michaels and kind of his evolution throughout the last few years. Like, you saw him fighting Razor Ramon at WrestleMania, and you saw him fighting Diesel and Bret Hart. And then it kind of, you learned about the boyhood dream one more time. And then it transitioned to who Shawn Michaels is now, which is this brash, arrogant, kind of smug son of a bitch that you want to see get beat. But this video reminded you that beneath all of that, Shawn Michaels is still the best in the world, to borrow a phrase.
Absolutely. Again, like you said, a great job of building up who he was, who he is, and what Stone Cold was facing. You know what I mean? This is somebody who's beaten everybody. He's beaten everybody. In a lot of cases, depending on your level of understanding, not only beat him, but ran him out of town. You know what I mean? Hall left, Nash left, Brett's gone. Like, yeah, he's the guy who survived all this. You know, there's no Bulldog anywhere to be seen. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, he really did like beat everybody, you know, got through the Undertaker by hook or by crook, but got through him. Like, there's no reason to believe that Shawn Michaels would be stopped. Absolutely.
Yeah. But to be fair, they also aired a highlight video for Austin as well, which kind of showcased his journey. They showed him taking on Bret Hart. They showed him beating up everybody, stunning everybody. And man, I think this video throughout the show, between the videos and the Austin and Michaels, and then the addition of Tyson, I think this was maybe one of the biggest matches that WWF had put up at the time. I think it was certainly bigger than WrestleMania 13, probably bigger than 10, 11, 12. What do you think? Was WrestleMania 14 like one of the biggest WrestleManias up to that point?
I think it's bigger than everything after Hogan Ultimate Warrior. I think it's bigger than everything after that. You know, everything before that, that's a lot more about spectacle and creating this thing. But as far as, okay, let's talk one-on-one for the world title. I think since Hogan Warrior, it's the biggest one. So what is that, 8?
Yeah.
So yeah, 5-6 years, it's the biggest one. And then if you stack them all up, it's very hard to, outside of like John Cena and Batista at 21, it's hard. And of course, Daniel Bryan at 30, it's hard to put numbers to the ones after as far as where you'd rank them. Like, I think we got Roman's biggest match coming up, even stuff with Brock. I think this is Roman's biggest match. I don't think that Brock's this really weird case where him and Roman main evented, but I don't think you would say Brock and Seth, the year Kofi one, was as big. This is I think it would be a top 5. I think you'd go in no particular order. You got Hogan Warrior, right? Hogan Macho. What would you even say with Cena? Maybe, I don't even know if you'd say Cena HBK is there. I don't know. But yeah, as far as like strictly title matches, I think it's easily top 5. Like, of course, Rock Austin 17 is bigger than Austin Michaels, I think.
Yeah.
But it's right in there. Like, it's right there in that top 5 mix for sure.
And like 17 was like, it was a great match. But Austin and Rock were already there. Like, WrestleMania 14 is a seismic shift. Like, it's in all the ways you can think of, a passing of the torch to say this is.
And in that way, to agree with you, in that way, to me, it's bigger than Hogan Warrior, because Warrior did not become a bigger star afterward. Like, even if he did, it's for such a short period of time that it's not remembered. Like, you can't tell me who he fought after that match. You know what I mean? Like, it's that. But yeah, as far as bringing your next star into the limelight, it's like I said, like Batista, Triple H, Cena, JBL did that, but not in a way. Nothing touches what happened with Austin. Absolutely not.
So that was a really good episode of Raw. Not a lot happened, but Triple H did fight Owen Hart. Owen Hart had hurt his leg, like, legitimately. So he was doing commentary, but Triple H came out and challenged him like a heel would do. And Owen Hart, like an idiot, agreed to the match.
In the tracksuit. Yeah.
Took like 5 minutes. China low blowed him, of course. And then Triple H put him in this weird leg lock, and Owen Hart tapped out.
Yeah,
And
he
now
did.
Triple H was once again the European champion. I
Yep.
hate it. I hate it when baby faces do stuff like that. I don't know if you're the same. I hate it when they try to do the noble thing, but they just look like idiots.
Just look like idiot. You're not proving nothing to me. Take the day off. Like
Right.
I was a kid. I think I had perfect attendance all the way through like junior year. Always had perfect. My mom was like, "No, you're going to school. You feel sick, you're going to school. Like you don't want to be there, you're going to school." Right? It was dumb. I knew it never meant anything. I knew there was nothing you actually got. Like take your days. No, absolutely not. So yeah, no. Like, hi, kitty. But no, absolutely not. Owen Hart was a big dummy for that. God rest his soul. Why would you ever do that thing? No, I can't fight. I'm hurt.
Not easy. Nobody would blame him.
Nobody.
So finally, it is the last show before WrestleMania. It's a day that will live in infamy, Cameron, and I'll tell you why. This was the first time DX came out to the ring. They were getting ready for a promo, and the camera cut to this very, very drunk woman who was wearing like a tube top, DX on her boobers.
So drunk, like I've never seen security hold one person back that much.
It was
like, he is
uncomfortable.
just like, she's gone. She's out of her brain, and he's just like, "Lady, no, lady, no, lady, no."
Because
And
she
of
would have
course,
climbed over that barricade. She
yeah,
would have
and of
gotten
course,
in the
like Shawn Michaels and Triple H did not help that security guard whatsoever.
ring.
They
They
made
gave
it
her
worse.
the attention that she was looking for.
Oh,
Uh, Shawn Michaels called attention to the lady and her enormous boobers by asking her, "Hey, do you have 2 nipples for a dime?" Triple H said, "Hey, are you double or triple DJ?" It's the same jokes that they did with China a month prior. They didn't have any new material, and that's what kind of we're saying when we say, like, were they really all that edgy? Or
yeah.
But whatever. Not content with just joking about the lady, Shawn Michaels then just opted for casual cruelty. He said, and I quote, "For all the attractive women out there, that's a skank." And we realize that.
But then he backhanded complimented her, like, for having like the courage to wear. It was just ridiculous. Like, why are we doing this? Yeah.
So nowadays this wouldn't fly, but back in the 90s during the original run of DX, they would end up doing this a lot. Like you see the recaps now where Triple H is telling the girls to bring their boobers out, and it's we talk about, or Republicans talk about nowadays, drag shows kind of indoctrinating and grooming kids. Like, what kids in that audience, that is way worse than anything somebody will see in a drag show. I believe. Not to get too political, but
there's nothing political about drag shows. The problem is they try to turn it into a political thing. Like, there's any rational person
we're gonna get in trouble for this.
Understands like how ridiculous it is that a drag show, which has existed forever, right?
Shakespeare.
There's literally no evidence outside of small pockets of anecdotal evidence that even suggests that these are things done to groom children. It just doesn't exist. Like, anybody can pull an anecdote of anything happening ever. It's just not a real thing. And that has nothing to do with politics. It has to do with common sense. Yeah. It's a made up thing. Like, I don't feel like I'm pushing anybody to one side of the ballot box with that. It's just not real. And so, yeah. Okay. All right. We're through that.
All right. Are you still with us? Honestly, I hope that for the 20 or 30 viewers that we have, I hope most of them agree with that. And if they don't, we don't need you.
Come on.
So I should mention that Mike Tyson came out with DX and in full DX regalia. He had the shirt. He was doing "Suck It" like 1,000 times. He got paid probably $1 million to just do this.
He got paid for it.
Yeah. You're right. I can't even be mad. You can't be mad at the hustle.
Man, he was having a ball.
He was. He seemed happy to be there, and that's
Mhm.
like you can tell. Like, do you remember when WWE had that guest host era when like
Summerfest.
everybody was coming out?
Summerfest. I remember.
Oh, what was not
Yeah.
Jeremy Renner? What was his name? Jeremy Renner would have been cool.
It wasn't. Oh, it was Jeremy Piven.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Having a ball. Not
When
having a ball.
celebrities are having fun, like Mike Tyson was,
Mhm.
you can tell.
Mhm.
So Shawn Michaels said that he's seeing the feud building between Steve Austin and Vince McMahon. Because DX stuff aside, there's also some seeds being sown for the future feud of McMahon and Austin, which is probably the most famous feud in WWE.
Mhm.
Kevin Kelly had asked Vince McMahon, "Do you want Stone Cold to be the champion?" And Vince McMahon said, "Not just no, hell no."
Mhm.
So they're sowing the seeds for that, which will happen throughout the rest of the year. But Shawn Michaels said he didn't care. I don't care what's going on with you two. Like, WrestleMania already has a chick fight. We don't need another one. And he just completely tries to like take the fire out of this feud, and he does it in a way that actually is like kind of cool. And I don't know, it's exhausting always rooting for the anti-hero, you know?
Yeah. Absolutely. Again, you get the genesis of, like you said, the Austin McMahon stuff, and it's the first time that Austin acknowledges the deck stacked against him in a way that we're supposed to be conscious of. Like before, it's like I can punch and kick and stun my way through whatever's in front of me. It's different when the machine is telling you that they don't want you. So I need to know exactly where they stand so I know how to proceed. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it was incredible. So now Austin's not only going up against Shawn Michaels, and Triple H and China and Mike Tyson. Now he's got the owner of the company actively saying, "I don't want you as a champion." Like, man, they're building Austin to be the anti-hero of WWF, and it's so freaking cool. He had to have been there. So Shawn Michaels, after making fun of this woman and calling her a skank, had a few questions for Mike Tyson. He asked, at WrestleMania, who's going to still be the WWF champion?
You are Heartbreak.
And after WrestleMania, who is going to still be the baddest man on the planet?
I am Heartbreak. I loved it.
And who will run the World Wrestling Federation? D-Generation X, and they will forever.
I loved it.
It was a pretty good promo, honestly.
Yeah.
So at the end of the show, The Rock took on Stone Cold Steve Austin. This is probably like their third singles match. I didn't realize how much these guys fought each other in the night.
Yeah, that IC title was like a great feud that Austin won, forfeited the title to The Rock and still stunned him. It was great. I loved all that before. What's really interesting is Austin's what, 6'2", 6'3", 240, and Rock's 6'5", 275. And so it's wild that they're both in there huge, but then look at how much bigger Rock is than him. Yeah. It's really crazy. But they're fun to watch because they're both like really, really athletic guys who don't leave their feet. And that's a compliment. You know what I mean? Like they really, it's really mat stuff. It's a lot of punches. It's a lot of running the ropes. I loved it. It was great. And beat Rock clean on the day before, not the day before, but the show before, they both had title matches. It was crazy.
Yeah, it was great. And we'll talk about The Rock a lot more in the coming months and the feud between the Nation of Domination and D-Generation X. So stay tuned for that. But at the end of the show, so Austin beats Rock and DX comes out and they don't really do anything. They just kind of have one last stare down before WrestleMania. This is the last Raw before WrestleMania. I would have thought, especially since they'd already done it, wouldn't you have Shawn Michaels try to get a little bit more heat before the show, or at least have them come face to face? Austin was
he saw what he did to D'Lo. That's why that's why his neck does that now, because he caught that stunner at the end of the show. He didn't want no smoke. I think they put Shawn Michaels over so much the couple of weeks before that I think that them keeping their distance and Austin having a little agency, I think that worked. Like, I think that was good at the end, as opposed to him, like, and again, Shawn Michaels, if we're to believe he's hurt, and I do believe that he's hurt, we don't want physicality that may need to come from Austin getting the upper hand. You know what I mean? So have them keep their distance. I think that does make sense. I do.
Yeah. Well, this was the final Raw before WrestleMania, but there was one more show to kind of build a little bit of more intrigue for WrestleMania 14. So WrestleMania 14 was in Boston. So they call it a DX public workout, right? Which is basically just kind of like a publicity stunt press conference, right? So they set up a ring at the government center in Boston. They set up a ring. DX comes out. It's like the middle of the day. There's like 15,000 people there just for this press conference, which kind of shows you like how big a deal this was. So there's a ring outside. Everybody comes out in DX. Tyson's there. Shawn Michaels is giving kind of a standard promo, you know, I'm going to beat Austin, blah, blah, blah. While he's giving the promo, though, a fan chucked a battery at Shawn Michaels' head. And in documentaries that you've seen, like you see that Shawn Michaels, as soon as he gets hit with that battery, he's out. He leaves the ring. Triple H and Chyna look confused. They don't know what's going on. Like, it pissed him off. And I think it showed kind of where he was at in his headspace. But I don't actually blame him for leaving, because like if I got hit in the head with a battery, like, all right, fuck you. I'm not gonna
absolutely. This is done. Like, this is not, you're part of the show to yell and scream and be happy or be sad. You are not involved in the physicality. And like, the guy across from me isn't hitting me like that. Why should you get to? Absolutely not.
Yeah. So I was gonna ask what your thoughts are on crowds throwing stuff into the ring.
I've never even understood the desire. As somebody who genuinely enjoys what I'm seeing, like, we're at a movie, man. Like, you don't throw stuff at the screen. Somebody got to clean that up. Like, no, you don't. I wouldn't do anything to risk anybody's health like that's performing. And that, you hit that guy wrong, that's a concussion, and now you're in real trouble. You know what I mean?
I wonder if they ever caught that guy. That was a shitty thing. So, Cam, we are here. It is WrestleMania 14. It's March 29th, 1998, 25 years ago. And we're going to talk about the two main matches, which is Owen Hart versus Triple H for the European Championship. And finally, Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Shawn Michaels for the WWF Championship. But we'd be remiss not to at least mention in passing the rest of the card, because, well, I want to know what you think of this card. So to start it out, it was a tag team battle royal. So you had, I've got the results. I know their names. Miguel Perez, Jose Estrada, and Jesus Castillo.
Yeah, there was Jesus was in there.
Yeah.
There was no Angel. There was definitely a Jesus. Yeah.
Right. So they're taking on Bradshaw and Chains, Mark Henry and D'Lo, the Quebecers, the Rock and Roll Express, Farouk and Kama, a few other teams. But the main story of this is LOD 2000.
Come out, LOD 2000.
Right.
In football shoulder pads and lacrosse helmets?
Yeah.
Okay.
They were trying to keep the Legion of Doom relevant. Yeah. It wasn't working. Their time.
They got Sunny in the fire bikini. They were doing stuff. Yeah. They it's sad isn't the right word. But like that specific, there's a reason the Rock and Roll Express can last forever, because it wasn't about being body guys. It was about being the super technically sound, fight from under with the hot tag and drop kicks and terrible haircuts. Right. If you have a terrible haircut as a young man, you can have a terrible haircut as an older man, because that's still you. But with the Legion of Doom was so much based off of the imposing physicality and these amazing physiques and being immovable and physical. And eventually they just look like barbecue dads. These are the barbecue dads.
The barbecue dads. I think that's a cooler name than LOD 2000. But
Agreed. It wasn't even 2000.
Right. It was
It was 98.
Yeah. So they win the match, and they'll try to do something with them throughout the coming months. Eventually, stuff gets real dark, where like Hawk's jumping off the Titantron, and we're making fun of his addiction issues.
Yeah.
We're not going to get into that. So after that, though, you got Taka Michinoku defeating Aguila for the light heavyweight championship. And this was right when WCW was doing their cruiserweight stuff. This was a good match. It's not something that you saw in WWF a lot. What do you think of this match?
If you ask someone to show you Triple H's best singles match, a lot of people are going to direct you to him versus Taka Michinoku. They have a fantastic match on a random Raw, but it's stellar. I love Taka Michinoku. I think he's amazing. Half the concussions we have nowadays are because of him. That Michinoku driver is amazing. Every variation of it is something I've used or will use on 2K when I make a guy. I love him. Great talent, great match. Loved it. Absolutely.
Yeah, it was a great match. And Aguila was no pushover either. Like he was a great opponent. We also had Mark Mero and Sable taking on the artist formerly known as Goldust and Luna in a mixed tag team match. Not a lot to write home about, but Sable did hit a power bomb on Luna, which I think was the first time she did that.
Yeah. Great visual. They had been feuding forever. It was not only her feuding with Goldust and Luna, but getting out of Mark Mero's shadow and him having to deal with that. It was fun, man. It was fun. I think Sable got a raw deal. Women of that time get this rap of being hard to work with, and it's like when you look at their work environment, it's a shock they weren't harder to deal with. You got to put up with a lot. And then when it's time to get yours, they call you crazy because you want to get yours. Yeah, nah. Mm-mm.
Yeah, a lot of gaslighting there. But things worked out well for her, right? Her husband gets to make them millions of dollars every year. So do you think we'll ever see Sable in the Hall of Fame?
If she wants it, yeah. If it's
do
something
you think she still has like some bitter feelings towards WWE?
Probably not. Like you said, man, she got her money out of them. You know what I mean? Like, even if it ain't her money, she got her money out of them. I think she's okay. But yeah, I think if that's something she wanted, that's something they give her, especially being that the primary person who either gave or didn't give her the thing she wanted is not the primary person who would make those decisions now. So yeah.
Sure. Absolutely. A few more matches. We had The Rock defeating Ken Shamrock after Shamrock defeated The Rock.
Busted his ass. Yeah.
Shamrock made The Rock tap out to the ankle lock.
He put him in that belly to belly and then locked up that ankle and Rock tap. Shamrock, he lost it though, man. He lost it. The demons came out and they wouldn't let him go.
Those proverbial inner demons. Yeah, he wouldn't let go. So the ref reversed the decision.
Yeah. And then he whooped everybody up and down that ramp and that walk. He was going nuts. I think he put Rock back in the ankle lock in like the entranceway.
Yeah.
Yeah, he went crazy. I love that match. Yeah.
But this was also a really good kind of coming out party for The Rock and his verbal skills. He'd done some really good stuff, but he had an interview segment with, I think it was Jennifer
Flowers. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was going to be president, baby. Talking crazy. Yeah.
He wanted to be the ruler of the world. It was great.
He was talking crazy. It was great. It was fantastic. Absolutely.
Speaking of fantastic, the New Age Outlaws took on Cactus Jack and Terry Funk. The Outlaws throughout this time period are kind of DX adjacent, right? Mm-hmm. They're not technically with the group, but there's some sort of like friendship between them, or at least mutual respect.
Yeah.
Outlaws will become a much bigger part of this story literally the next day, which we will cover on our next podcast. But for this one, they got beat by Cactus Jack and Terry Funk in a dumpster match, which means, like a casket match, they got put in a dumpster, is how they lost the match.
Yeah.
Eventually, they would reverse the decision because
it was a wrong dumpster.
It was the wrong damn dumpster. Don't you hate it when that happens?
So if you remember, I think it was in No Mercy. It was either No Mercy or WrestleMania 2000. But like in one of those games, you can't like get a table. And so the only way to win a tables match is to put them through the announce table, which is ringside. That's like the only way to do it. Hey man, a trash can's a trash can. Okay. Like, yeah, that was some trash. But yeah. Yeah.
Oh, well. They'll have a rematch the following night in a cage match, which we will get to. But then we come up to other than the main event, this was probably the match I was most looking forward to. For me, as an 11-year-old kid, the stories of WWF was Stone Cold Steve Austin, DX, and The Undertaker and Kane. I truly believe, I don't really like either one of them now as like human beings from what I've seen. But the Undertaker and Kane story, I think, is the best story that WWE has ever produced.
Yeah. I think, of course, like recency bias puts me in favor of the Bloodline because it appeals to me like as an adult.
Sure.
But no, yeah, Kane and Undertaker, that long winding family, brothers, enemies, different iterations, having the same move set. Yeah, absolutely. It's the most enduring story. There's absolutely no question, right? Yeah. And then what they did that was great, even though Steve Austin and Shawn Michaels is the biggest story, the second biggest story got weeks where it was the biggest story. Like they were closing the show with Kane and Undertaker. They were involving Kane against an Austin. We still saw reverberations of the Undertaker against DX. Like, yeah, absolutely. It felt like a huge deal. Yeah.
Do you remember when Kane set that guy on fire?
Yes. Yes, I do.
That blew my mind. Like,
yeah, you can do that. He's on fire. Like he's really on fire. Like somebody help that man.
How does Kane ever lose a match if he can just set people on fire?
Yeah, just with his mind. The pyrokinetic Kane. Yeah.
So Undertaker did end up defeating Kane. It took 3 Tombstone pile drivers to do it, though. Nobody had ever kicked out of 1 Tombstone. But Kane kicked out of 2, finally succumbed to the 3rd one. The match itself was whatever, but the story was phenomenal.
Absolutely. Like you said, how do you make a guy look strong? The move that nobody can kick out of, let him do it twice. Yeah, absolutely.
It was great. So finally, we come to the 2 matches for our purposes. Triple H versus Owen Hart for the European Championship. After months, literally months, of tormenting Owen Hart, of stealing his title, of breaking his ankle, of punching him in the dick like 15 times. Do you think Owen Hart finally got his comeuppance? Do you think he finally defeated the villain and took his place at the top of the mountain?
I do not think so.
You would be correct, Cam. Chyna was handcuffed to Sergeant Slaughter for this match, but that didn't really prevent anything because Chyna threw baby powder at him, knocked him out, low-blowed Owen Hart. Triple H got the pedigree and won the match, and that would be the end of Owen Hart as a single star.
That's a wrap. I mean, they talk about making you look strong. They put a lot against him to make him go down, but boy, they ran him through the ringer the last couple of months. Oh, yeah, bless Owen's heart. Well, I didn't mean it like that, but still, yeah,
nice. And then finally, we come to the reason that we are here. It is the main event: Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Shawn Michaels. Iron Mike Tyson as the special enforcer. What a match. I'm going to read something from the Wrestling Observer because Dave Meltzer can probably say it better than I ever could. Maybe not write it. He really needs to work on punctuation. But of course, the moment we've been waiting for. Officially, WrestleMania, which for all real purposes sold out the Fleet Center in Boston months ago, almost exclusively through mail order sales. It drew 19,028 fans, paying $1,029,230. It was the largest gate for any event ever in the new building. It was the largest gate for a pro wrestling event in North America in 6 years, ever since Hulk Hogan versus Sid Justice at WrestleMania. So it was a big deal. People were paying money to see this match.
Absolutely.
Meltzer wrote, unofficially, it appeared that Michaels, who went into the ring with a serious back injury that was believed to need surgery, tried to gut out a classic performance. But perhaps the only stark reality in the show itself got in the way. While attempting to will himself to the level of classic matches that he's become famous for on big shows, Michaels re-injured his back early in the match. I didn't know that, actually. That's what
they said, yeah.
He said that going into the match, he had the injury, and it was no doubt aggravated by early bumps. Because Shawn Michaels, for a guy with a back injury, he was bumping for Stone Cold. He was doing the Ric Flair over the turnbuckle spot. He was getting his butt kicked.
Mm-hmm.
So after the show, the reports were that he suffered a ruptured disc in his back and would be out of action for long enough, like 9 to 12 months, that there were no plans for his involvement with Triple H the next night on television. He was largely written out of the script, with Hunter Hearst Helmsley taking over and creating a new DX. After spending the vast majority of the past year on the sidelines between injuries and temper tantrums, it's believed that it will be a long time before the man who has often lived up to his gimmick as the showstopper would be back in the show. So in the match, it is fine. It's not Austin versus Brett or Michaels versus Brett. But for somebody that had already had an injured back and injured it more in the beginning of the match, man, we don't appreciate that performance from Shawn Michaels nearly as much as we should.
It's one of my favorite spots. Austin catching the chin music, swinging them, reversing it, kicking him, and then hitting him with the stunner. I'll always remember that. Yeah. Again, served its purpose, man. Served its purpose. Again, the match is forgettable, but it does have one of the best spots of Austin's career, if not like the most memorable one, aside from like stunning Vince, one of those million times, and then, sunning a rock out of his boots and Hall. But I'm still talking about 4 or 5 moments in a, long span. But yeah, I love that particular spot because Michaels looks confused, gets swung around, and that braid or those 2 braids go flying. I love it. It's great.
It really built the tension. This was before like people were kicking out of moves or reversing finishing moves all the time. I don't remember anybody like stopping Shawn Michaels from the sweet chin music. And that's what Austin did. Span him around, gave him the stunner. The problem, Cam, was that the referee had gotten knocked out in the match.
Who's going
to count to 3? There's nobody there except Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson slid into the ring, objectively gave a very fast 3 count, and declared Austin the new WWF champion. It was all a ruse. After DX constantly took the rug out from under us, they finally got the rug pulled out from them. Mike Tyson was with Stone Cold Steve Austin, maybe not the whole time, but at least for a little bit of the time, he made Austin the WWF champion.
Yeah, came around. Absolutely. Yeah, man. One of those the most memorable moments. And then, him and Austin, he raises Austin's arm, like there's a little show of love there. And then, Shawn Michaels stopped the show again. He ate that punch. It's beautiful. He's talking about hurting your back. That bump probably hurt like hell because he fell flat after that. Yeah, man, it was everybody in the building wanted Austin to win. They found a way to involve Mike Tyson the right way. Yeah, it was great. Absolutely.
It was. And so, yeah, you alluded to it. So Shawn Michaels naturally is confused because he thought Tyson was with DX. He's saying, what's going on? If I were him, I'd be like, why did you make that 3 count so fast?
Yeah.
But he acts like he's going to hit Mike Tyson. He actually does, and Mike Tyson, without even blinking, just lays Michaels out.
Yeah.
Like you said, he takes that flat
It
back.
wasn't that long. Hold my shirt for a long time to reveal something. This time he clocked it.
This was a Mike Tyson punch out, 100%. And then Mike Tyson took an Austin shirt and draped it over Shawn Michaels' lifeless body. I found out that wasn't planned, and Michaels was actually pretty pissed about it.
Oh, of course. Like, how dare something be fun and visual and not planned? And chill out, Shawn. But it was great. It was a great visual for sure.
He did not chill out. So at the press conference, you see this in like the Shawn Michaels documentary. Austin is the champion. He's given his speech. This was before AEW media scrums. And before Brawl Out, this was the first time that there's a little bit of drama at a press conference. Austin was giving his interview. Shawn Michaels came in, argued with Shane McMahon for a little bit, and then kicked the door on his way out, only to be seen months later down the road. So what did you think about WrestleMania 14 as a whole, and about this final image of Shawn Michaels kicking the door?
Yeah, fun, important, historic. Again, like the birth of some of the stars who would carry them for a very long time. Rock, Austin, Triple H, kind of at the forefront of that. Just a very, very important changing of the guard as far as who was going to be on top. To a lesser extent, like you have the formation of the second DX really taking place. And then again, the Big Show feel is back for them. Yeah, man. I thought it was really good, very important. And again, it just set up so much to come. Absolutely
it did. So I'm going to ask you this question. I really want you to think about it, because I've thought about this a lot. Shawn Michaels is my favorite wrestler of all time. It's Shawn Michaels, Bryan Danielson, and CM Punk. Those are my three guys, all of whom have quite a bit in common. But we can all agree that before Shawn Michaels came back, he was a handful. He was an unhappy man. He was dealing with, and this was before it was okay to talk about mental health stuff. Like, he was going through it, right? He lost his smile, and we make fun of it, but like, that's a real thing. So add drugs and alcohol to that, and it made for a very unpleasant person. So this will be his last match for 4 years. If Shawn Michaels didn't come back to WWE after being born again, what do you think his legacy would have
been? Being a very talented jerk. I think if that's the case, even though he had the really good program with The Undertaker, he doesn't even have that standout career match. Like the Iron Man match, big deal at the time. Big deal because he won the title. It's not looked at fondly as some wrestling clinic.
Sure.
The stuff with Sid was good, but Sid doesn't have classics under his belt. You know what I mean? I think he's looked at as a very good wrestler, but let's say that he retired and never came back. We probably look at him on the level of like a Diamond Dallas Page, where you're world champion, secondary champion, really, really good stuff, but we don't put you in the very upper echelon of people to ever do this. You know what I mean? Like, it's there's no argument whether he's better or Brett's better. If he leaves, then I don't think he has the cachet that Brett does. I think if there are tiers in this thing and he's in the top tier as far as performers, American performers, however you want to put it all time, I don't think he's in the top anymore. I think he's in the second. But yeah, he's not looked at as all time that guy.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think, he did have some matches. I liked the Iron Man match, but it wasn't as
good.
It's just made it out. Yeah, it's fine. The Hell in a Cell, obviously, but
don't let me take away from that, because that is that's a very good one. And again, he still has a ladder match with Razor Ramon. But I think you remember him for a lot of firsts, not a lot of bests. if he
Yeah,
doesn't have that
that's a
second
great
run.
point. That's a really great point. Well, luckily, he would come back in 2002. He'd feud with Triple H. Eventually, they would reform D-Generation X. We're going to get into all of that later on down the road. But this was it for a WrestleMania 14 episode. I think we covered all of the highs and the lows, and the world of D-Generation X is going to change forever the very next night. I'm excited to talk about it.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's gonna be fun, man. That is as far as like appointment viewing, I don't know what changed. Maybe my parents like got cable again, but I can like vividly remember the night DX came back and forward. You know what I mean? Like that was like DX 2.0 and forward, Austin winning the title and forward was really me paying attention to what's happening as far as I can remember episode for episode. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to get into it. It will be a blast. This was a blast, guys. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate you. This is it for episode 3 of Break It Down, a D-Generation X retrospective. Cam, thank you for your time. You're at Seahawk on Twitter. I'm Nick. I'm at WrestlePerks. Guys, thanks so much. And we've got 2 words for you.
Good night.